Hey everybody, thanks for watching. Some things on the channel that have happened recently have kind of come together, and I wanted to make a video about it because I think that it's an interesting symmetry that's happened. So I went to the Milo Lines Golf School in Arizona, and there I got a really good pattern of what I should be doing, which I'll talk about later. And then also I went and took a lesson from Eric Maitrey, who was a touring pro for years, won over 50 times professionally. And he said something that really hit home, and it's totally changed my perspective on how I should be swinging, and I think it's something that people don't talk about enough. So I wanted to talk about that. What Eric saw, which I thought was really interesting, and it's something I had heard before, he kind of mimicked my swing, and he went like, you take it like this, and you go like this, and you sling it out here like that. And it just looks so like loose and everything. And my friend used to call me like the human slinky, and it reminded me of that. So I started thinking about how can I do some things to get a lot more cautious and careful and really aware of where the sweet spot is the entire swing. And really I've been doing so much stuff with the step drills and everything else where I kind of flinging it back and then just hoping that it flings through. And I think there might be a way to still keep the dynamics and the movement of this, but be a lot more cautious with it, and a lot more, cautious isn't the word because it's kind of freewheeling, but a lot more aware of where it is in space and put it back on there. So the first thing I started thinking of to do was, let me start to take some really slow backswings. And with that I noticed like I was getting a lot of the positions that I wanted, and I was hitting the ball a little bit more solidly, definitely more on line. Like the worst shots were not as bad, but I was missing that kind of like dynamic flow that I wanted. So then I started to say like, okay, like what are the pressure changes that happen in the swing, and still do those, but move the club in a more aware kind of way. And that was working out okay, but it wasn't quite the jump that I needed. But I made something that I think really helped. So this is a homemade training aid that I made. So this is like a baseball thing that baseball players use to warm up their shoulders. And I put it on this posture harness here. So this is similar to like the Gravity Fit, which is something that is a training aid, but it's a little different because when you put it on, you put these cuffs on your wrists and then your hands are free. So let's check that out. All right, so now I have this thing on. So what I've been doing is this stretches you out. So when I'm wearing this, I have to feel like I'm stretching these bands the whole swing. And what you notice is that if you go here, I normally want to then overfold the elbow, and that like puts slack into the bands. It also puts like what I call slack into the system when you do this, and then you try to get it back again. So you lose the awareness of where the sweet spot is. But if you keep these things stretched the whole time, you get a much better awareness for where the sweet spot is, and I think a lot more consistency. So then the drill to do is just go armpit to armpit, keeping these bands really stretched, which is different than just going armpit to armpit, but then kind of having slack in the system. See a lot of this kind of a soupy, slinky kind of move. So I just want to hit it on the button, armpit to armpit. A lot of golfers are stiff, and golf coaching goes towards what like most people do. So most golfers are really stiff, so everybody's telling, hey, get more loose, get more flexible. But for a lot of people, that's like a real poison killer for their game. Because if you go through the swing and there's a period of looseness, then you have no awareness for where anything is, and then you try to get it back again. One thing that Dr. Kwan always says in the golf schools that we do together is that there has to be a certain amount of tension in the hands and the arms in order for your brain to know where they are in space. If they go slack and loose, your brain doesn't know where they are, and then you try to get them stiff again to catch the swing again. So it's like you have the swing, then you don't have it, and then you try to catch it again and hit it well. You do a lot better if you keep a reasonable amount of tension in the muscles. That kind of like activates the electric system of your body to know where things are in space. Tension can be a killer if you go too extreme, but if you don't have any, then you're just going to be like super sloppy. Recently, my friend Dr. Scott, who's been on the channel, gave a lesson to Colin Morikawa, and I was asking Dr. Scott, well, how do people, some people really have a slow swing, but then at some point they get athletic and then they, you know, still hit it pretty far and they can be like elite level. He said, yeah, for some people, going back fast is only going to make them worse. He said for Colin, like if he gets dynamic and fast in the backswing, like he'll hit it all over the place. He needs that structure and slowness on the way back. Maybe it's a mental thing, but also he said that just some people don't have that reactive spring to their swing that the backswing is really going to feed into the downswing like that. So that's the big change. I'm trying to see if I would actually be a better golfer if I took it back feeling much more together and braced and through. So wearing this, I can feel very together and stretched, and I'm keeping that awareness of where the club and the sweet spot in particular is the whole time a lot more. So one thing that I like to do is do the quad step drills, but do them slow. And when you do that, you start to get the feeling that it's the steps and the turn and the pressure shift is the thing that's stretching these bands and keeping this club away from you, rather than any muscular pushing force that you're doing. Like I could do this slow and just do this and keep my arms straight, but it's different than letting the flow and the pressure do it. So that's about it. It's something I've been thinking about as far as slack in the system, and if there's slack in your system. The thing that you notice when you're doing this, if you keep the band stretch, you'll keep turning to keep the band stretch. If you go here and you want the club to go back further and you don't turn anymore, the band gets kind of folded. You'll notice that if you want to, one, keep them stretched, and two, take the club back far, the only way to do that is to really turn. If you stop turning and you want the club to go back further, the only way to get it to go back further is to overfold the right arm, which I think is probably the number one problem in golf, people not using the right arm the right way. Then you come down and you have to go like that. But if you keep them stretched, you can turn through it and it'll make you a lot more consistent. So slow-mo Dr. Kwan's drill, and keeping the band stretched with my feet more than just like my triceps, if that makes sense. All right, I wanted to tag this part of the video on because this is me practicing with it, not really doing a video or anything. This is me just practicing normally. And we're gonna go through just a few minutes shortened of what I'm doing. So right there I have the DST compressor on, and while I'm getting loosened up here, I'll tell you that we have just one spot left for the Be Better Golf Day with Eric Miketree coming up at the Journey of Pechanga. So that'll be really exciting. Go to bebettergolf.net/school to see information about this. All right, so this is that bent backwards club, the DST compressor. So what I'm trying to do is hit, like John Rahm says, hit low cuts with this, but from like a normal ball position, and try and like not to rush it. I also have on, you know, the stretching bands are on my arms here. So I'm trying to, everything I'm always trying to do is trying to get the loop correct. I always want to take it under and then a little over. So, oh yeah, there's the code for the DST compressor. So the thing that I notice usually, the usual pattern with the DST compressor when I'm practicing with it is I use the 8-iron almost all the time. I use the wedge like rarely, but I use the 8-iron quite a bit. Usually the pattern that I have with it is that I'll start off thinning shots, and then once I've thinned a couple, then I'll hit the more solid, but they'll be going straight and drawing. And then after I do that for a while, when I'm really starting to move my body well and get the center of mass of the club behind me a little bit more, then I can fade it. That was a good one there. But I do like the combo of using the DST compressor with the stretchy bands, just because people are always telling me I need to be more braced and also need to have more width. So it's just something that I'm thinking about. One of you guys said in the comments, and I appreciate any like tips that you can give me or other golfers. You know, I think the comment section is a really good area to kind of connect with other people about what's working and what's not for people. So there, I'm thinking about what Bertie had said on that call that we did, where he said that the real crucial issue is that you have your weight or pressure or whatever forward on that lead leg as you're striking through the golf ball. So I'm trying to feel that, but then feel it without doing the sliding of the hips, actually getting open and getting to the lead leg. Something that I was working on with my son a lot, because he was hitting it left, but he wasn't taking any divot at all. So him learning how to hit the ground the right way was a big deal when we were working together this day. But something I thought was interesting, like people always talk about if you combine training aids, the first thing people always say is Tin Cup. Like, oh, you look like Tim Cup, or you look like an idiot. Well, you got to realize, Tin Cup had never finished better in the U.S. Open until he put all those training aids on. And maybe it actually did something. And he said it to himself, well, maybe there's something to this stuff. So it probably didn't do anything for him. But you got to look at the facts. The facts are that he was just a driving range pro, and then one day he put all that stuff on. And then he became the legend. So anyway, I always think like, well, maybe there was a sequel, and you'd like to hear what happened in the sequel. So we'll have to ask the director about that, what he thinks. Same guy that directed White Man Can't Jump. I just read a thing about him and about the ending and really what would have happened after Tin Cup. All right, so I'm getting the takeaway down pretty good there as I'm working some of these DST compressors. This is something that I used to do a long time ago on the channel when all I was doing was interviewing people, and then I put up a video, or I wasn't trying to make it entertaining or anything. All I did was put up a video of every single shot I hit of a bucket. I think it took like 30 or 45 minutes long video, and I did a voiceover on it like this. So I thought that would be a nice kind of blast from the past to go through this, just to kind of show everything that I've been working on. And I'm thinking about doing some bigger things on the channel, so I think this will be a good kind of intermediate thing to do. So you can see every once in a while when I start to build up speed, the club gets kind of tucked on the way back. That was hit super solidly, but it was kind of tucked on the way backwards. All right, so now I'm pulling out a wedge. This is like a 54-degree wedge. And same thing, I'm trying to hit shots that go low and fade. That one was kind of thinned, which is kind of like the thing for me, and not just for the DST clubs, but like a lot of clubs, I'm kind of thinning it to start before I really get a sense of waking up my body. That was better. And then later this day, we went and we played a par 3 course. And played twice, and I shot a really good score. I shot 3 under on the par 3 course. Hitting wedge shots, everything from like 65 yards to like 110 yards were all the holes, and really had a good sense of where the sweet spot was. Recently, I've been making a much slower backswing, really trying to be aware where that sweet spot is, and that one felt good. And I'm getting the loop a lot better as far as the center of mass is going back here towards the camera, then behind me, and then through the ball. When I did that, that video with the toy with Mike Schmidt and everything a while ago, and I was talking about how important it is to swing left, I think I overdid that, and I'm swinging too left, and I need to go more like straight towards second base rather than like pulling the club over towards third base. But it's something that you do when you really want to tow it around the corner. You swing left a lot. But that one was good. So that wedge is like normally like 105 yards would be a 54-degree wedge. That's flying probably like 80 with that last shot that I hit. And that one you can see, like I kind of stopped towing it around the corner, and then the toe shuts down immediately. The club attacks from too steep, and the toe gets out past the heel, and it goes left. So what I'm trying to do is have the feet open, the face open at impact, which has been a big change for me, and the shoulders a little closed feeling, kind of matching the face, which I thought is weird that you set the face what is called open, but then the shoulders, if they're in a closed position, then they actually match the face, which is if you think of if there was a camera right above the golfer and the face of the club is open and the shoulders are slightly closed, those two things actually would be in line with each other. It's kind of weird. I will overdo it because of some of the things I heard early on in golf. Like, I will overdo the open stance. So I like the feeling of an open stance, and golf teachers always ask me, like, they'll say, like, well, what shot do you want to hit? And recently the thing that I want to hit is, like, I want to hit blocks. Like, I want to hit really solid blocks where it either goes straight at the target or it's just a straight block to the right of the target. Like, I never really want the club face to be closed relative to the path. So I want to always be some degree of square or open. That was good. And this is, I gave it the so-so hand signal, but the motion was good. And this is really good training for me because it keeps things really together and simple, and I'm doing it at a speed that I can control it. As far as controlling the center of mass of the golf club, that's going to go on the correct loop, up and then in and then through the ball. So that one, somebody walked in front of us, but that loop was not like awesome. That was just up and down on the same line. I want it to be a little bit more exaggerated, to be up and then behind me a little bit and then through the ball. And the main thing is, see these practice swings? My practice swings are getting better. Before, 100% of my practice swings were too steep because I really didn't have a good solution to the idea of how to rotate and get open through the shot without it being very, like, over the top and steep. So I think I'm getting better with that. So this is still the 54-degree wedge. So with something like this, it probably does get very blocky as far as block style practice, where you're doing the same thing again and again. And I probably should be better about not, when I'm doing this, not like changing clubs a lot, but trying to do the same thing in different ways. So, like, say, still do this all with 54-degree wedge, but change how I'm hitting it. So there, I let the mustard get off the hot dog, so to speak. So it's a good reminder to bring it back here. It was super windy this day. The other thing that I meant to tell people that I haven't is I have all these gloves, these Be Better Golf gloves. I have, like, the best gloves in the world made for me. And if you go to bebettergolf.net/pro shop, you'll see the Be Better Golf gloves. So up, in behind me, and then straight through the ball. And then the wind blew so hard that it knocked my camera over. And luckily, it didn't break my phone screen. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. Click the subscribe button. It really helps the channel.